My name is Travis Carricato. I retired from the Columbia Fire Department in South Carolina after 25 years of service. My story started in December of 2014, going through my birthdays in December, and fortunately, the Columbia Fire Department did medical testing. And part of that testing was getting your PSA level checked, and I came back after Christmas, and the doctor had called me and said, "I don't like your numbers. Would you go ahead and come on in?" So I came in and we went over my numbers, and during the blood test, my PSA level had doubled from the year before. And he gave me some options, so I ended up going to a urologist, who then in February of 2015 said, "There's something I don't like from your exam." And that really was the moment that it really kind of struck me. I was 46 years old at the time and had said, we need to schedule you for some biopsies. There's something abnormal in your exam. So there, about 2 weeks later, I had a routine prostate biopsy, and it came back positive. Over 75% of the samples that they did, so it was a very aggressive diagnosis for prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is a very slow growing cancer for men, and most of us, old age will get us, but most men will at some point be predisposed to prostate cancer. But being 46 years old, every time I went to a doctor appointment, everybody said, "You're awful young. You're awfully young to be diagnosed. Super young. How did you find out? How this and how that?" Just everywhere I went, I was probably one of the youngest patients that they had seen with my level of prostate cancer. Well, one of the things after a biopsy that they want to do is they want to find out if it had metastasized. And this was probably the most difficult thing that you go through. So the biopsy comes back, it's positive, and everybody says, "Well, what was that like?" And I tell everybody it was like my body had cheated on me. I was stamped with kind of the meat at Publix where it says FDA approved, except mine said expired. That my body had really truly failed me. It was just a incredibly horrible feeling. The uncertainty of not knowing, is this going to be my expiration date? Is this going to be this? This is what's going to do me in. And for many of you, I didn't even know really truly what the prostate was, what the function was. And then I realized that the impact of quality of life on all cancers, but it's, more specifically for men with the prostate, the quality of life. And I won't go too deep into that, but for those of you, it really impacts the quality of life. So as my story progresses into waiting for not the biopsy, but I had to wait 8 weeks for my prostate to heal, go to get the MRI testing. So in 8 weeks, I'm waiting day in and day out for 8 weeks, whether or not, is it stage 1? Is it stage 4? What is the level? What is the danger to my health of where I am currently? Because there's everything from wait and see to chemo, radiation. And so when it came back that it had not metastasized, I started going to see doctor's appointments. And I gotta preface this, that I was very fortunate with mine, that I didn't have to do radiation, I didn't have to do chemo, but it was a very radical surgery that I did at Medical University of South Carolina. So we all have our own unique story, but for those that have gone through chemo and radiation, my heart goes out to them because I never had to experience that, and I'm thankful for it. But what I did have to do is, the doctor that I felt comfortable with was Dr. Thomas Keene at Medical University of South Carolina, and he was one of the few that does the surgery that I needed that saved my life. And it's called a radical perineal prostatectomy. So it's the full removal of the prostate, but it's very unique where it's the way they used to do it in the early 1970s, 1980s. And he's one of 4 doctors left, I believe in the United States, if not in North America and Europe, that does it this way. And the reason why it saved my life is because now what they do is they do robotic surgery. And when they go into the prostate, and they go in through your belly. And when they go through your abdomen into your belly, where they remove the prostate, mine was attaching to my bladder. And so the way he was able to go in from really open me up like a tin can from underneath, was able to pull out my prostate and then shave my bladder. And so I was able to get the margins necessary to prevent the spread of the cancer. Otherwise, I tell everybody, if I didn't go to MUSC, I would not be in remission. 6 years, this is, so now we're 2022, well, almost 2022. So it's literally 6 years ago that I found out with my cancer story. So through all of that, the one thing people say, how do you get through that? And I tell everybody that the only way you can get through that, I'm a praying man, so I relied heavily on my faith, I relied heavily on my church, and I relied heavily on family and friends. There are firefighters and church members that literally were driving up and down to Charleston while I was in the hospital. And so for me, that's what really helped me get through that. But I'll tell everybody that we all have a unique story, and my story, I would be remiss if I didn't say this way. I was sitting there having a pity party like most cancer patients do, like, why me, why me? And I was saying a prayer, and then all of a sudden I felt this overwhelming peace that says, is just one of my children worth it? And I knew what that meant in that moment, that, for me, I felt the presence of God asking me, is one of my children worth it, what you're going through? And I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. And there's a scripture in Samuel that says, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And so for me, being able to do a video like this, I realized that if it can just change someone's behavior, if it can tell somebody to go get tested, look at your PSA test, and do what's uncomfortable, because otherwise you can be facing a very similar story that my family and I went through. Cleaning your gear and all that stuff, of making sure that you're doing the preventative measures. So my story doesn't quite end there. Where my story ends is because I had a family history of prostate cancer from the very beginning. I was told it's genetic, you're predisposed. And then, so I qualified for a Medical University of South Carolina genetic study for prostate cancer. And so I went back down to Charleston and went through their genetic testing, and come to find out what their results were is that I was no more predisposed genetically than the general population. And they said, we can't determine this for a fact, but it was most likely environmental. And that's when I told them that I was a firefighter, and they just basically said, okay, this makes sense. So when you realize that what I went through, what I experienced, most likely could have been prevented if we knew back when I was a younger firefighter, could be life-changing. And so that's why I'd like to share my story with each and every one of you today. My name is Travis Carricato. I'm a Columbia firefighter that retired in 2018, and I'm a cancer survivor. Have you taken the measures to protect yourself and your family with your clean gear, getting tested, and making sure that you are safe from the contaminants and you don't bring them home and expose those that you care for? Be safe, and remember to serve those and serve others well.